Winter was passing, but there was still 1 or 2 late frosts that made everything look sugar-coated and sparkly in the spring sunshine. Each morning, Donald and Douglas took it in turns to take a ballast train from the small railway, and then James would pull the trucks to a section of the line that was being mended. One morning, Donald was uncoupled from his trucks and ran into a short siding so that James could take his place at the front of the train. But a hard frost had made the rails icy, and when Donald tried to stop, his wheels locked and he skidded along the rails. Before he could say "Fat Controller," he hit the buffers at the end of the siding. The buffers stopped him. That was what they were there for. But they were damaged. Donald was relieved. He wasn't hurt at all, just embarrassed. The other engines teased Donald. "You should go in for skating championships," they would say. Even Donald laughed, although he was worried what the Fat Controller might say. But the Fat Controller wasn't cross with Donald. He knew it really hadn't been his fault, but he did warn Donald to be extra careful next time. The next morning, workmen were sent to mend the buffers, and around that time, James's repair work on the line was ending. "Tomorrow's train, Douglas," he said, "will be the last for the time being." The next day, as Douglas brought his loaded trucks down from the small railway, James was waiting for him. "Here you are, James," he said. "What are you going to do now that this job is finished?" "Well, pull some passenger trains, I hope," James answered. "I'm tired of just doing the same job every day." "Don't worry," said Douglas. "This is the last one." His fireman uncoupled Douglas from the train and climbed back into the cab, and Douglas ran into the short siding to have a rest. At the end of the siding, the workmen who had been mending the buffers were standing to one side. They had pots of paint beside them and had just finished painting the buffer bar bright red. "That looks very smart," said Douglas. "Much better than it did before. The Fat Controller's probably glad that Donald smashed it up." He moved into the siding. The driver put on the brakes, but nothing happened. The driver tried again. Still nothing. "What is?" exclaimed Douglas. "I can't stop." The workmen watched with dismay. Douglas rolled steadily along the line and smashed to splinters the buffers they had just spent 3 days mending. "Ouch!" exclaimed Douglas. "That hurt." The new buffers had stopped him, but unfortunately, Douglas had been moving more faster than Donald. He was in a terrible mess. His front was badly bent and he was smeared with red paint, which hadn't had time to dry. "You silly great engine!" scolded the foreman, waving his paintbrush furiously. It still had red paint in it, and some of the paint flew off and stuck on Douglas's nose. 3 days' work, and then in 3 seconds you'll come and smash it all to pieces," the foreman went on crossly. Douglas's wheels were off the rails, so James had to come and rescue him. Later, the Fat Controller arrived and told Douglas furiously about engines not taking care in sidings, and the red paint on Douglas's nose was left as a reminder.